At €1100, the FiO S15 offers a very versatile digital player that does DLNA, Run Ready, AirPlay, local storage, Bluetooth remote control and a huge color display. But how does it sound? Using Android in a streamer/digital player is not new. It makes the player very versatile since you can install apps from the Play Store and other places. This way you can install an app for streaming services that do not come as standard. I wouldn't be surprised if proletarian services with their own app would pop up one day. With these possibilities also come great responsibility. There is always a risk of malfunctioning apps causing enormous errors in the system. So some caution might be in order. But let's first see where the S15 fits into a stereo. The S15 is to be connected to an amplifier over either RCA or XLR cables. The amp has to be connected to a pair of loudspeakers or headphones. The S15 needs to be connected to your network and over the network to the internet to play from streaming services. When you have music stored on a computer or NAS, that can be played over DLNA. Next to the touchscreen, the S15 can be controlled using the included Bluetooth remote control or using an app on an Android smart device. There is no iOS app. Since the S15 has several digital inputs, ACD transport or player can be connected over SPDIF coax, Toslink optical or AES EBU. ATV with HDMI ARC can be connected over the HDMI cable. A digital video source like a Blu-ray player can be connected to over HDMI. Instead of an integrated amplifier, a power amplifier can be used. The trigger output on the S15 can switch the power amp on and off when the S15 is switched on and off. Of course, active speakers, those that have the power amplifiers integrated, can be used too. The cabinet is built from relatively thick, cold-rolled carbon steel and powder-coated in either off-white or black, while the front is machined 60mm aluminium in either silver or black finish. It measures 430 by 274 by 89.5mm and weighs 5.6 kilograms. On the front left there is a rotary encoder that is used to navigate menus by turning and pressing. Pressing long functions as a standby control. On a strip left of the display there are 3 touch-sensitive buttons. One for selecting the operating mode, one to go to the home page and one to go back one screen. Under low light conditions these are hard to see. A large part of the front is dominated by the near 8-inch full-color touchscreen. On the right side of the screen we find again 3 touch buttons: skip forward, play pause and skip back. Below the second rotary encoder we find a USB host and USB DAC port. The first for storage media, the second as input for the DAC. The rotary encoder functions as a volume control when turned and as play pause button when pressed. On the right we find the power switch, the mains fuse and the IEC mains inlet. Then there is a ground terminal and a ground lift button. There are 3 line outputs, a pair of balanced ones on XLR, a pair of unbalanced, single-ended if you like, outputs on RCA, named number 2, and a pair of unbalanced outputs on RCA, named number 1. Then the digital I/O, SPDIF coax out with below it Toslink optical out. Next to it SPDIF coax in and below Toslink optical in. Then AES EBU out and AES EBU in. The trigger output can switch on external equipment like a power amp. The I2S output can be set to several pinout configurations in the menu to match the pinout of your DAC. The HDMI ARC output is to be connected to your TV's HDMI ARC input. The audio from the TV is returned to the S15 over the audio return channel, which is what ARC stands for. The HDMI input is for connecting a video player to. Then there is an SD card slot, a USB-C for connection to the M.2 SSD cage above, a USB host for connecting a computer, the Ethernet port, the M.2 SSD cage that can hold an optional M.2 NVMe SSD memory stick, as shown here opened. Remain the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth antennas. Inside the S15 we find three separate circuit boards, one for the power supply, one for the digital circuits and one for the analog circuits. They are separated along these white lines. Below this carton there is a mains filter setup with directly behind it the 35 VA toroidal transformer that outputs the low AC voltages. Next to it the rectifying circuits outputting DC voltages. This is then buffered by 4 times 4700 microfarad ELNA electrolytic capacitors, further filtered and regulated. The heart of the digital system is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 with 4 GB of RAM and 64 GB of ROM. Bluetooth is handled by the Qualcomm QCC5181 chip. The USB I/O is handled by the Exmos XU316, while the AES EBU and SPDIF inputs are transformer isolated. There are two AccuSilicon high-quality clock oscillators from the AS318B series, one for 44.1 kHz base frequencies and one for 48 kHz base ones. The connection between the power supply board and the digital board is over this hardwired jumper. The connection between the digital board and the analog board is over these hardwired jumpers, so no isolation here. Finally, let's look at the M.2 SSD cage that is inserted here, held in place by a small magnet, while a ballpoint click-clack mechanism makes ejecting easy. A supplied short USB-C cable makes the connection to the USB-C input. Simple, cheap, fast and easy. I mounted an ID Sonic i7000 Pro 2TB SSD without a cooling profile, since that wouldn't fit. No problem though, since music only requires low speeds. The audio board has 3 large voltage regulators with several smaller ones locally on the board. Mounted on a subboard is the AKM Velvet Sound combination of the AK4191EQ upsampler DSP and the AK4499EX Delta Sigma DAC chip. The output is then sent to the OPA 1612 op amps and sent to the output connectors. The output voltages are 4.5 volts RMS on the unbalanced outputs and 8.9 volts RMS on the balanced ones. Quite sufficient to drive power amplifiers directly. The S15 is a rather versatile piece of gear. This automatically means there are many menus and many options. To begin with, there are 2 modi for playing locally stored music and music stored on a computer or NAS running a DLNA server. The Android mode and the pure music mode. The latter gives higher quality and uses a basic looking menu. Selecting inputs is done using proprietary apps like AirPlay, USB DAC mode, Bluetooth receiving mode, coax mode, Roon Ready, optical mode, HDMI in mode and HDMI ARC mode. Additional apps can be downloaded from the FiOS store, for instance Amazon Music, Apple Music and Qobuz. Other apps might be downloaded from the Google Play Store for when in Android mode. In the FiO Music app, DLNA servers were directly found, while the FiO Roon app was immediately recognized by Roon. An Android app lets you control the S15 from a distance. An iOS app is not available. The S50 was connected to the Arcam Radia A25 amplifier in my setup too. That in turn was connected to the Acoustic Energy Radiance 1 loudspeakers over Kimber 4PI loudspeaker cable and placed on target loudspeaker stands with Stack Audio OVA 50 isolators. They are supported by the REL T5 subwoofer that is connected to the loudspeaker terminals on the Arcam using the cable that came with the sub. The network switch is the Upton Audio Ether Regen with Upton Audio UltraCaps 1.2 power supply, connected over fiber to the Netgear ProSafe GS418 TPP central switch. There, the S15 was connected to the clean side of the Ether Regen. The Roon Nucleus 1 was connected to the dirty side. I mainly use Roon since I don't have an Android device. Taking the price into account, the sound quality is very good. There is a royal stereo image with good focus, rather clean sibilance and a fair low-end resolution. Mid and high-end resolution was good, slightly above class. As is the overall experience of the sound. Low stress, good pace and rhythm. This is a nice sounding streamer for the money. I rank it 3/4 up in my setup too. Since it has become fashion to buy a streamer with integrated DAC and then use an external DAC, I tested the S15 hooked up to the Holo Audio Scion 2 DAC. This is how it was set up. The S15 was connected to the Scion 2 over an HDMI cable using the I2S protocol. You can set several pinout configurations, but the default setting worked fine with the Scion 2. The Scion was connected to the Air Acoustics AX520 amplifier over Grim Audio SQM XLR interconnects. It drove the PMC FAC12 signature loudspeakers on Stack Audio OVA 70 isolators and connected over AudioQuest Robin Hood Zero loudspeaker cable. The network connection comes with the Zixel GS1900-10 HP switch, which is connected to the S15 over the Network Acoustics Eno streaming system Ethernet filtering. Internet connection is over a Ziggo business modem connected with a patch cable to the Zixel switch. Also connected here is the small green computer Sonic Transporter i7 CDR music server that runs Roon server and Minim server. Compared to the Magnum Nano Ultra MK3.5 Farad music streamer that normally takes its place in my setup 1B, the overall quality is slightly less, but not much. Jitter related matters like low-end texture and sibilance are the main differences, which places the S15 bottom of my setup 1. When a complete streamer with remote control, display and so on costing €1100 performs almost equal to my favorite network bridge costing 10% more when used through the I2S output, it's an achievement. But also when the internal DAC is used, it's a nice product at an attractive price. As said, it has quite some features and 2 menu modes, which means it has a steep learning curve if you want to use it all. If you just want to use it as a Roon endpoint or DLNA player, it's straightforward though. And you need an Android smart device if you want to use it from your phone or tablet. From time to time you find some Chinese characters in the menu, but they don't stand in the way of normal use, and they were already less after the first update I received. So if you want a versatile, good sounding player in this price range, this might be the one for you. And on that bombshell we come to the end of this video. There will be a new video next week, so subscribe to this channel and follow me on Patreon, Facebook, LinkedIn or Instagram to stay informed on when new videos are out. Help me reach even more people by giving this video thumbs up or link to this video on the social media. It is much appreciated. Many thanks to those viewers that support this channel financially. It keeps me independent and lets me improve the channel further. If that makes you feel like supporting my work too, the links are in the comments below this video on YouTube. I'm Hans Beekhuizen. Thank you for watching and see you next week. And whatever you do, Enjoy the music.